to do it in the approval of the agenda. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. And we'd like to acknowledge that we're in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Huron-Robinson Treaties area. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis peoples on this land, and we show respect to them today. We've learned that we must want to accept our responsibility to take care of Mother Earth, her plants, her animals, and our shared peoples. We look to each other and the elders of both nations as a source of inspiration, guidance, and the living memory of our communities. As settlers on this land, we're grateful for the opportunity to meet here and thank all of the generations of people who've taken care of this land for thousands of years. So I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda as circulated. Councillor Getty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to add one item to the agenda in business that I will be bringing forward a notice of motion.
That becomes business C. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Nope, I see none. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of Council held on July 7th, 2025 as circulated. Councillor Vincent and a seconder, Mario. All in favor? Thank you. Do we have Oscar on Zoom? Yes, we do. Welcome, Oscar. Thank you very much. You have the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good afternoon, members of Council. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be here today to provide a presentation to Council of our audit findings report for the year ended December 31st, 2024. So, Council, consistent with what we've done in the past, we've circulated the draft financial statements through your staff. We've also prepared a bit of a presentation just to walk Council through the audit findings. So from an audit perspective, we've completed our audit in accordance with Canadian auditing standards. And when you read the auditor's report, what it indicates is that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. Materiality being the threshold of errors that as auditors, we're able to absorb before we either require the financial statements to be corrected for those errors or we change our opinion. So consistent with public sector organizations in general that don't have a profit motivation, we've calculated our materiality based on revenues. So it's calculated at 3% of revenues or an amount of $721,000. Now, Council, from an audit perspective, we use materiality for a number of different purposes. We use it, for example, to calculate our sample sizes. But what I would suggest, ladies and gentlemen, from your perspective, probably the most relevant use of materiality is it determines what's known as our posting threshold. This is the level above which, if we do have an error that's uncorrected, we are required to communicate it to Council at this meeting. So it is calculated as 5% of materiality, and this year it's $36,000. And just to put it in perspective, Council, that's about 0.12% of the current year's revenue, and that is essentially the level of precision that we have from an audit perspective. Now, we are prepared to issue what's known as an unqualified or a clean audit opinion on your financial statements. This is the highest level of assurance that you can receive under Canadian auditing standards, and there's really a couple of things that we require. We do require Council's approval of the financial statements today. We do require what's known as a management representation letter. And what this is this is an attestation from your staff that they've provided all of the necessary information to us and there aren't any material disclosures that are outstanding. And then lastly, what we need to do is we just need to put our file together because the audit is technically live until such time is approved by Council. So from an audit perspective, one of the things that I do want to highlight to Council, and it's a significant change this year from an operating results perspective, is the consolidation of your 25% interest in the West Parry Sound Recreation Cultural Center. So council, as you may recall, in the past, we've talked about how Seguin has a 25% interest. You are required to proportionately consolidate this into your financial statements. During the current year, there's been a significant increase in the level of activity for the West Parry Sound Recreation Center that has resulted in bigger amounts being included in your financial statements. Most notably, approximately $7.8 million of new revenue that comes from outside of the municipalities in the form of grants. In addition, additions to capital that now bring the capital costs of the project incurred to December 31st of about $12 million. So as part of the audit process, we did work with your CFO. We also worked with the town of Parry Sound, who hold the records, and we've picked these numbers up. And so because of that, what you'll notice is there's been some big adjustments that have been made to your grant revenues, big adjustments made to your tangible capital assets, specifically because of the recreation center. So from an audit perspective, just some items that we wanted to highlight for you. There were no significant changes that we've identified from an audit risk perspective. As part of our audit planning, we are required to go through and assess levels of risks. We basically didn't find anything new that would change that assessment. Because of this, there were no changes to our planned audit approach. We are able to execute our audit as initially planned. And our audit approach involves a couple of different things. We do look at substantive testing, which is basically vouching. We look at substantive analysis, which looks to looking at trends and looking at patterns and looking at relationships to try to get some sense as to whether numbers are reasonable. In certain instances, with respect to your landfill, for example, and your asset retirement obligations, there are experts that we rely upon. And then we do control testing overall. Very happy to report, council, that there are no uncorrected audit differences above our posting threshold. So we haven't had to eat into our materiality. And when we describe this as a clean audit opinion, it's about as clean as it gets. We haven't found any issues from an internal control perspective over your financial reporting. We do test controls, council. We don't test all of your controls, but for those that we have tested, there were no issues that we found that we would consider to represent a control deficiency. There is a new accounting standard this year with respect to revenue. It hasn't had a material impact on your financial statements, so we just bring it up in passing because we are required as auditors to communicate any changes from an accounting policy perspective. So, your worship, members of council, that is an overview of our audit findings. We'd like to thank the township once again for allowing us the opportunity to be of service. If there are any questions concerning the statements or any other matters, happy to answer them at this time.
Does council have any questions? No, clean audit is what we like to see. So I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the consolidated financial statements of the corporation of the Township of Seguin for the year ended December 31st, 2024, and the audit findings report to the members of council for the year ended December 31st, 2024, as presented at the regular meeting of council on July 21st, 2025 by the firm KPMG. Could I have a mover? Ken and Mario. All in favor? Thank you. And that is carried. Thank you very much, KPMG and Mr. Ploney. Enjoy the rest of your week. Okay, we move on to staff reports. I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda for July 21st, 2025 meeting of council. Mover, please. Gail and Terry. All in favor? Thank you. Are you going to speak to this one or is Craig? Craig, okay. I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-056, being a bylaw to authorize the use of alternative voting methods, namely voting by internet and by telephone for the Township of Seguin 2026 municipal election, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Mover, Gail. Can't. Okay, Craig, do you want to speak to it, please?
Sure, thank you, Madam. As previous elections last 3 or 4, Seguin has been working with Westbury Sound area municipal clerks, and everyone is recommending to their councils to go with internet and voting methods again this year for the election, or next year, sorry, for the next election. So we're looking for council to pass the bylaw to authorize that, and then we'll look at our agreements with the providers.
Councillor Getty, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Craig, just as in the past, we will still set up a computer terminal for seniors or people that aren't able to log on themselves to assist them with the voting process.
Yes, we would still set up a voting terminal in the lobby of our office, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Thank you. Your work is just beginning. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the Seguin Township Community Engagement Strategy attached to this resolution. A mover and a seconder to put this on the table. I have a seconder, please. Terry. And we have Valerie to take us through this and answer any questions. Go ahead, Valerie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this document has sort of been a work in progress for a good number of months, and together with representatives from all departments, I drafted this document with their input and looking at professional best practices, effective tactics to date to put this framework together. And as you saw in the report, subsequent sub-reports, I guess I'll call them, or strategies for the youth and seniors in Seguin will follow. And most of the tactics and tools that are outlined in the document are already being used by the township. This will simply provide more of a framework to ensure that we're maximizing our opportunities to engage various representatives from our community.
Are there any questions from council? Councillor Bazinski.
Thank you for the report. It's very good and comprehensive. I would just like to point out a couple of things. One is early engagement, so that we have enough time, and when I say we, all the residents of Seguin have enough time to fully understand what it is being proposed, like a new draft official plan, and having enough time to go through a lengthy document like that. So early engagement is very important. And secondly, I guess keeping the lists of all the Lake Association and other association contacts up to date is very important, because I know when I audited that personally myself a year ago, it was not up to date. So I think that's something that has to be kept up to date through contact with these associations. And then finally, while I know that we can go on Zoom and we can do all these wonderful electronic things, for people that are working, and especially that aren't they're seasonal residents in the township, having meetings on a Saturday is far superior than having meetings on a Thursday, because if you're working in Toronto or wherever on a Thursday afternoon, you may not be able to take advantage of a Zoom if you're working. So I would suggest that you consider the use of weekends, and certainly keeping any substantive meetings through the spring, summer, and fall, because in the wintertime, I know I've come up in years past through snowstorms to attend a meeting, but I don't think we should be forcing our residents to do that. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Our CAO to weigh in on that.
Just maybe a message for the community, specifically to the lake associations. We do the best we can with the information we have, but when a lake association has their AGM or some routine meeting where they change leadership and perhaps email addresses, we're not privy to the changes, and we can't necessarily chase down who that is. So if the lake associations have a meeting and change their leadership or change their point of contact, it would be great if they reached out to us, and just a simple email through to info@seguin.ca would get us that updated contact info as well.
Thank you. And I'd just like to say that I think it's part of our responsibility as counselors when we see one of those changes, because we're getting invited to those meetings. So we need to send that information in. Councillor Geddes first, and then Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Valerie, great report. I'm just wondering, do you have a timeline for your appendices for the sections that are specific to youth and seniors? And then I guess the follow-up question to that, do you anticipate when that, and I'm looking more at the seniors because the social media aspect isn't as big an issue with the youth as it is with the seniors in the community. Should we expect them to be those strategies to be plugged into each of these applicable formats that we're using to distribute that information out to these seniors? Thank you.
Through the mayor to Councillor Getty, that's a good question. And as far as timeline goes, I'm hoping that we will have a follow-up report for council within the next 8 weeks. It's going to follow a similar framework, but we want to ensure that the tactics that we're using really speak to those target audiences and reflect what we hear back from those user groups. And we're still working on developing a bit of that data. But we understand that in-person connections are very important, in particular for our seniors. So you can expect to see that type of tactic reflected in the follow-up, if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. That's great. Thank you so much.
Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Valerie, well done, I think. I just wanted to make a comment. And, you know, in the past, we've seen different surveys that came back to us, and quite frankly, the sampling or the responses to it were a little dismal, really.
Mhm.
But the one that really kind of strikes in my mind as being really successful was the last one on the waste management, where we actually went out and staff went out and solicited opinions. And, you know, it gave you enough data, you could be pretty confident that, you know, which is what you're looking for, right? So don't sort of omit you know, you could reach a lot of people at our transfer stations because everybody goes there, right? And, you know, you put some staff members out there with, you know, a random sampling questionnaire for whatever, you're going to get, you know, I think a lot better results than you might if you just depend on the internet and on signs and things like that. So by no means am I an expert in this kind of thing. That's just what I observed over the years. That one seemed to be the best as far as responses by far. I don't think anybody disagree with me with it. You know, we had a really good response on that. So, and thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. And I think I've spoken to many residents that were quite surprised to be stopped as they were dumping their garbage with somebody with a clipboard in their hand saying, "Can I ask you a few questions?" And so that builds confidence when people actually remember that they were stopped and asked for their opinion. So I think it does work. So thank you, Valerie, for the strategy, and we'll look forward to how you implement it. No further questions. I'll call a vote. All in favor? Thank you. And that's carried.
Read your presentation right now.
Yeah. So I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-049, being a bylaw to amend the Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903020-001-08000, application number R 2025-006-R for 14 Farquhar Street for the Stern family, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. And I'll remind you that we did defer this, and they are back with a different proposal. And so I think we have Ryan Allen with a presentation to take us through, although you do have virtually all of the presentation in your council package, correct?
Virtually, yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. My name is Ryan Allen Planning Consultant, 16 McNabb Street, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L1R4. This is our third trip in front of council. We had our public meeting in May. We returned to answer some additional questions in June. And since the June meeting, we've been busy making revisions. We've heard from staff, we heard from council, we've changed the plan, and hopefully we've made some substantive changes that we're able to get support. So just as a quick reminder, this is 14 Farquhar Street in Rosso, and the property is about 5 acres with about 600 feet of frontage. I always have trouble with this remote. Here we go. So just as a reminder, we were here talking about the existing sailing boathouse that is proposed to be relocated and reconstructed. The photo on the left side shows the Elephant Heads Point, which is a prominent cliff feature, as well as the existing boathouse and existing dwelling. And you'll recall the story about the dwelling was the old original log cabin, stripping off all the old additions and restoring it back to its original extent. This is the original application or the original design that was in front of you at the public meeting. It was 2 separate boathouses. And this view, you'll see there's 2 boat slips as well as a boat port slip, plus the sailing boathouse itself. And the sailing boathouse is just a 1-to-1 replacement. We heard concerns about multiple boathouses, sleeping cabin sizes, the overall massing. So the revised design takes the 2 boathouses, puts them together, reduces the width, and you can see the outline that shows the original extent that was proposed and the new extent. One of the notable changes is converting boat slips to boat ports, as well as removing one of the boat slips itself, so down from 4 to 3. Got a summary that shows the changes that we have made, and the left drawing is the revised, and the right-hand side is the original proposed. So we've gone from 2 boathouses down to 1 boathouse. Number of boat slips from 3 to 2. We've added a boat port slip in exchange for one of those boathouse slips. The number of sleeping cabins has been reduced from 2 to 1. We've reduced the sleeping cabin area by 69 square feet. We've reduced the number of bathrooms in the building from 2 to 1. We've reduced the dock width by over 20 feet. We've also reduced the width of the lower level of the boathouse and the upper level of the boathouse, almost 10 feet reduction on the upper level width and about 5 feet for the lower level. The total dock area has been reduced by over 700 square feet, and the upper deck area on the boathouse by over 100 square feet. Combined, the dock and deck area is over 800 square feet of reduction compared to that original proposal. The boathouse height, and this is the 2-slip addition to the rear of the sailing boathouse, its height has been dropped by 2 feet. And you recall there was an offer to protect the Elephant's Head Point from development. And I think the original proposal was a little bit convoluted. The proposal that we have in front of you now is simply to just increase that side yard setback from the east to 50 meters. So currently the setback is 15 meters. So we'll take it to 50 meters, a 35-foot increase, which is 115 feet. No development will be permitted on those parts of the shoreline. If I could skip to the next one, here's a comparison. The top is the original proposal. The lower is the revised proposal. I think that we are very appreciative of the input we received from staff and council. And I think that the architects and the Stern family, I think, are more pleased with the revised design than the original proposal and that was brought at the public meeting. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and hopefully the third time's a charm. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know there's been an awful lot of work go into this. Does council have any questions? Councillor Finson.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just a little bit confused. And so my questions are, it's beautiful. I really like it. I think you've done a lot of work. It's really nice. But my question is, did you increase I'm just asking because I can't tell. Did you increase the dock space on top of the ports? The deck space, is it increased or decreased? It looks a lot bigger in the drawing, but I could be mistaken.
Through you, the original proposal had 2 separate upper decks. There's now only 1 upper deck.
Yeah, but the one upper deck, is it bigger in the second one?
Combined, it's bigger than the original second individual, but combined, it's 109 square feet smaller than the total upper deck area on the original proposal. So there used to be 2 upper decks. Now there's 1 upper deck.
Okay.
And the size of the upper deck on the new design is 109 square feet less than the combined area of the upper decks on the original plan.
Yeah, but the upper deck was a lot bigger, no? Like, I mean, the space was a lot bigger. Anyway, it just looks really big here. It looks beautiful, and I appreciate all the work that's gone into it. I think it looks fantastic.
Thank you.
And
I can say that's 109 square feet less upper deck
okay.
that's on
I
that.
just,
proposal.
it just looks confusing.
Maybe
because it looks
yeah,
a lot bigger
scaling,
because it's on
scaling
one
issue.
side, right?
Sure.
You think? Is that why it looks
I think so.
bigger? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's beautiful, and I've read the letters, and they're really speak to what you've done. Thank you.
Councillor Bazinski first and then Councillor Getty.
I think you've done a lot of work, very good work, and I'm fully in support of your proposal.
Councillor Getty.
No, I just wanted to thank Mr. Stern as well. I mean, it is a very unique property with a very unique piece of history on it. You know, anybody redeveloping that property or renewing that property would have a vision. You know, at the table here, you know, we had concerns of future developments on the lakes as well. And I really appreciate the changes that you've made, recognizing those, but looking to preserve a piece of history, I think is very commendable. So thank you.
Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I as well would like to thank the family, the amount of effort they put into this. I tend to agree. I like the second one better. I think it's cleaner. It really reduces the amount of massing on the shoreline, which is really of great importance, especially on the 2 big lakes and Little Lake Joe, where the structures could get pretty big. And I think it's lovely, and I'm in full support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Collins.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm ready to give you the green light on this as well. So good luck moving ahead.
Thank you very much. I know there's been hours, probably some dollars put into 2 deferrals. So thank you very much, and I will call a vote. All in favor of the proposal. And that's unanimously carried.
Thank you.
Good
very
luck
much.
and
It
welcome
was
to
great
Seguin.
working with you, and we do appreciate the input. Thanks.
Yeah, yes, please approach the mic.
It was frustrating getting the deferral. We're so much happier with how it's turned out, and that's yeah, because of you and Taylor. So yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Enjoy the summer.
Thank you.
I have a resolution here. I have to read the whole thing, right? Okay. And I believe Preston will come and speak to it after I read this. So we have a resolution, whereas integrated watershed management is a modern approach to environmental management, which integrates information and decisions made to achieve collective watershed-wide goals. And whereas management of the Muskoka River watershed requires coordination between the provincial government, regional and local watershed municipalities, First Nations, and environmental stakeholders. And whereas one of the next steps in bringing an integrated watershed management approach to the watershed is to form a Muskoka River watershed staff working group. Now therefore be it resolved that the Corporation of the Township of Seguin supports in principle pursuing the integrated watershed management approach to the Muskoka River watershed, and further, that staff be directed to participate as a member of the Muskoka River Watershed Consortium. And further, that this resolution of support be circulated to the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry, the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, and the Muskoka Watershed Municipalities and First Nations. Could I have a mover? Terry and Ken. Preston, do you want to talk to this a little bit for us?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. You covered it pretty well, but I'll add in a little bit. So basically what the staff report is proposing is that we join the early stages of this collaboration between Muskoka Watershed, the Muskoka Watershed District, which incorporates Seguin Township, and the other municipalities in the watershed, with the goal of potentially understanding better water quality goals, flood map, climate adaptation work, and community management. And the ultimate goal of this project is to see and establish an overall management strategy for the entire watershed, which could be adapted by individual municipalities to suit their individual needs. I do think it's important to highlight at this stage, there's no financial contributions. It is still an early stage of the development of the program. And this is basically just to be a part of these early conversations right now. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Councillor Bazinski.
I guess I'm going to expose my long history of work in planning and with the Ministry of Natural Resources and the conservation authorities. Integrated watershed management is not a new concept. It's been around for 40 years or so, and it's laudable, absolutely. And, you know, in the past, we tried to link it so that you could look at the watershed and all the downstream effects of development. So if you had a lake that was heavily developed and it was loading phosphorus in, some of that phosphorus is going to go to the downstream lakes. And we were trying to look at, you know, could we limit development on downstream lakes because of the phosphorus loading? Anyway, those things never came to pass. I fully support the concept of integrated watershed management, and I commend the District of Muskoka municipalities for trying to take this on. In terms of Seguin, I would want to exercise a little bit of caution because the Muskoka River watershed forms part of Seguin, but we also have another part that is not focused on the Muskoka River. So, and I'm not quite sure how it would work because politically you've got the District of Muskoka and all the second-tier municipalities who can come together as one. We're a different municipality, as are a couple of other fringe municipalities. And in the initial meetings, I know they said this isn't a political thing because it really can't be. We have a political system set up based on the townships. I guess it's a question of what's the end game of this? And I haven't really heard yet from, you know, the people on the Muskoka Watershed Council what the end game is. And I would really like to know, because if the end game winds up being either control over development based on a watershed concept or mandatory funding based on a watershed concept, I would be opposed to both of those situations. If we're going to be using it as a vehicle to collect data, always nice to know about floodplains, as we can see from other locations in North America, then I'm happy. But as I say, I would encourage involvement both of myself as a council rep and staff to continue on with this. I just would like to identify that I don't see the end game yet, and so I'm a little cautious. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there, Councillor Fellner?
Thank you, Mayor. So the Muskoka watershed, just the majority of Seguin lies in the Seguin watershed. So it's the north end of Lake Joseph, Little Lake Joseph, and the north end of Rosso that are in the Muskoka watershed. I think it's very important at this point in time that we're at the table for nothing more than knowing what's going on, because I can remember 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago when things spun out of control, and I went down to Port Carling and the water's flowing the wrong way through the lock, right? You know, we got a problem when that happens, right? We had a big problem. So we've got a lot of our residents have, a lot of our ratepayers have property on that watershed, and we owe it to them to make sure that we're properly represented at the table. And perhaps we can find out what you want to know too, right? But I'm fully in support of this.
Thank you. I too, I had one of those docks that I couldn't go on even with hip waders that year. So I understand that we need to watch. But I also wonder that we are just really joining in principle and making sure we're at the table. Whoever's at the table, maybe it's time to bring the Boyne River watershed into the discussion, because that is the other part of the Seguin watershed. So when you're at the table, I think to raise these issues and talk about expanding the size of the Muskoka River watershed to include part of the Boyne River watershed might be a good thing for those of you that are at the table on our behalf. Any other comments? Councillor Collins.
Sorry. Yeah, there's 2 watersheds in Seguin. The one that, yeah, the larger one is Seguin, yeah, because there's 8 lakes that's populated all the way down.
I think there's more than that, but again, I think the
As long as
people that go to the table, I think bring those issues up. Seguin
Yep.
and Boyne River watersheds are important to us as a township. Councillor Fellner.
So if I'm not mistaken, Councillor Brzezinski, you sit on the Muskoka watershed, you represent us there, isn't that? So perhaps that's something you could inquire about, what is being set up for the other part of the watershed? Is there anything? Is there something else we should be participating in? Because it's a big part of the township.
Yeah, I know that they've had funding to do a lot of background inventory, and it probably wouldn't hurt us if we were able to access that type of funding to get more detailed background information on those watersheds.
Because I think it's worth doing, because no matter what, they are somehow all linked. So, okay, all in favor? Thank you, and that's carried. Thank you very much, Preston. Great work.
Just a financial update from Michelle next.
Okay, which is in our council package. So Michelle is on camera to bring us the financial update to July 10th.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is actually a status quo financial update. There's been very little change since the last one that I brought you at the beginning of June. We're still looking at the same surplus. None of the departments are reporting any significant overages and expenditures, and I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Any questions from council? Nope. Thank you very much for keeping the status quo. We like it, but we'd like it to get bigger too. But thank you very much, Michelle. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the Integrity Commissioner Report, MCIA Application 2024-02 for Council Dobro, prepared by Ron Shaw and Associates, Inc., copy attached to this resolution. You have the full report of the Carling Integrity Commissioner in your council package. Do you want to speak to it? Any questions from council? It doesn't really surprise me. Councillor Fellner?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll speak on, I think probably everyone around the table is a little disturbed by what they read there. I guess would be a mild understatement, which was the reason why we, as a board, as a pool board, went back to all the respective municipalities and asked that this be done, because it was a complete character assassination on three people that worked very, very hard to get the pool as far as it was at that time, and have continued to work very, very hard to make it what it is today. So as troubling as it is, I would ask you guys, I mean, call me, tell me what you think, but the board's going to deal with this. I don't know what they're going to ask for, but my opinion, there should be some remedy here. So that's about all I have to say. I don't think it really will do much good to bang this around in public any more than it is. So just give me a call.
Thank you. And I am in error. I should have had a mover and a seconder before we started discussion. Okay, Terry and Ken. Any further questions? All in favor of accepting this report? Thank you. This one's easier to say than the Muskoka watershed. I have a resolution here. Whereas Rail Safety Week is to be held across Canada from September 15th to September 21st, 2025. And whereas 261 railway crossing and trespassing incidents occurred in Canada in 2024, resulting in 68 avoidable fatalities and 58 avoidable serious injuries. And whereas educating and informing the public about rail safety, reminding the public that railway rights-of-ways are private property, enhancing public awareness of the dangers associated with the highway rail grade crossings, ensuring pedestrians and motorists are looking and listening while near railways, and obeying established traffic laws, will reduce the number of avoidable fatalities and injuries caused by incidents involving trains and citizens. And whereas Operation Lifesaver is a public-private partnership whose aim is to work with the public, rail industry, governments, Indigenous communities, police services, media, and others to raise rail safety awareness. And whereas CN and Operation Lifesaver have requested that the corporation of the Township of the Seguin Council adopt this resolution in support of its ongoing efforts to raise awareness, save lives, and prevent injuries in communities, including our municipality. Therefore, be it resolved that the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby support National Rail Safety Week to be held from September 15th to 21st, 2025. Could I have a mover? Greg? Ken? All in favor? Thank you. And that's carried. Let's hope we have no accidents in Seguin. Greg's item. Oh, that, okay, the C, okay. Councillor Getty has an item he wishes to raise.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a result of the March 24th of this year's decision of the Ontario Superior Court of Justice related to Tiny Township, specifically in regards to their case involving short-term rentals, I've had some discussion over the last couple of weeks. It had come up at council before. I've had some discussion with Jason and Councillor Collins. And I just want to serve notice of motion that I will be bringing a motion forward at the August 5th meeting of council specific to short-term rentals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to your little task force that I know has now met twice. It certainly was an item of discussion on Saturday at the Sugar Lake meeting. So we'll look forward to the motion next meeting. Thank you. I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-055, being a bylaw to write off taxes on properties in the Township of Seguin, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. I think it's pretty straightforward in your council package. There's only one. If there's any questions, would you, oh, I need a mover first. Sorry. Could I have a mover? Thank you. And a seconder, Mario. And if there's any questions, please direct them to Michelle, who's on camera. I don't see any. So all in favor? Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. And council reports. So let's start in Ward 6. Gail?
On July 10th, I attended a Ross Memorial Hall meeting. Lots of discussions over our fundraisers that were upcoming. July 12th, we held our first fundraiser with Lake Russell North Association. It was very successful. I was very pleased. We were a little worried, you know, it was a combined event, but it was fantastic. It was a long day, but it went really well. We will know at the end of the month what we raised at that. Then there was the fashion show. Long day, really long day. Anyway, yeah, and yeah, so that was long. There was some issues with it, but it was beautifully done. The models were lovely. The setting was beautiful. I mean, it really was a lovely day. So that, and I've had a lot of contact about the docks in Sucker Bay on Lake Rosso. I've been in contact for the last 6 months with Graydon's office with James King, and we've been going back and forth and trying to figure out, first of all, they had the wrong spot and didn't tell anybody. So I'm still talking back and forth with James, and we will get to the bottom of it eventually. I think they now at least understand what we're talking about. And it doesn't show up on the map, you see, because it's not a permitted dock, I don't believe. So it doesn't show up when you do an aerial. It just shows the 2 docks that were there originally. And people are getting concerned because traffic is parking on the corner of the road, and they can't fit on the shoulder. So they're out into the road right on that corner. So I've had some contact through email that they're just concerned about safety. So, and I've passed that along to James, and he'll send it through to MTO. He has a contact that I can't get in touch with, sort of thing. So all is good. They're working on it. I've had a few more calls, but not very many more meetings. So I have one tonight. I'm getting ready to go away, and I'm just like a little bit scattered. So yes, I've had a not as busy last couple of weeks, but lots of people contact. Mostly able to solve, and pretty good. Staff is amazing. So most of them, I've had a few complaints about the market and the parking, and the people that swim can't park, and the people that live there can't, they block on their driveways. We've got some issues. I think those need to be brought up and discussed with the market people. They have to take control of it, or we're going to lose some things, meaning parking on the MTO roads. I think that's the next steps. If people keep doing the things, right? They were parking in people's driveways because they know they're not here, sort of thing. So that's not really very, very good. And I mean, it's such a great event. It's just not good to have negative feedback. And I think they're easily, well, maybe not easily, but they're solvable. They're all solvable. So I think that just needs to be discussed with the market, whoever runs the market. So I've had quite a few of those just lately, because it's so amazingly attended. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And yesterday, Sunday, 2 of those docks in Sucker Bay had over 10 people on them. So where they're coming from, I don't know. and they were all parked all over the highway. So,
I know what it is.
yeah. Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. On July 14th, I had a meeting with our CEO and Councilor Getty, re the tiny township Superior Court decision of STRs. On July 19th, I attended the Sugar Lake Cottage Association AGM in Orville. And on July 24th, this Thursday, I'll be attending a District of Parry Sound Municipal Association meeting in Magnetawan, re the Seguin Fall Conference in Orville. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Mayor. Since our last meeting, I had a meeting of the pool board. Things are moving along. Anybody that's driven by the site can see the difference. Honestly, God, it's weekly, and good reports. It's on time, on budget, still slated for opening May-ish next year. There was a few tenders that hadn't been let out. I understand that most of them now have been, and we're within budget expectations. I think the mayor reported last meeting on the naming rights and how happy everyone was to see that happen. So I was away the other part of the country last week, so it was a little peaceful for me, but I it's a little busier, so there's more calls. So, yeah, thank you.
Councillor Getty.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been quiet for meetings, and I did have a library board meeting, and I also attended the West Parry Sound Public Health presentation that was to take place at Humphrey Arena that was canceled without anybody telling anybody that it was canceled. So there's been some discussion afterwards in regards to that. My understanding is that they're looking to reschedule for sometime in September. That was not something that was organized by Seguin Township or council. It was our facility that was going to be used. But I've had a couple of meetings with Jason, as mentioned by along with Councillor Collins, and been working with staff. A number of calls, but been working through them with staff and just following up with those. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Brzezinski.
Yes, I've had meetings with 3 different lake associations with respect to comments on the official plan, trying to get clarifications and so on and so forth. So that was one aspect. I'm still getting calls about the situation with the roads. I haven't heard any comments about the fact that we spent $1 million to upgrade Osler Park Drive, which I think was very nice, but I do hear a lot of pothole comments. So that's life, I guess. You can't expect anything else, but yeah, it's interesting. I was looking at some of the infrastructure. I go under the bridge on the Otter Lake Road between Big and Little Otter. And when you look at it from the underside, you see the rebar, the rusting rebar, and so on. And I'm thinking to myself, what would it cost to replace something like that? And I don't even want to know. But we need to take a sober second look at what our upcoming costs may be in the future, because we've got a lot of infrastructure, and the potholes aren't the only thing that we're getting some comments about. So anyway, I field the comments as best I can, and I know Tom's doing as well as he can within the budget limits, and we'll just have to continue to monitor it, I think, and see where it can lead. But who knows, maybe we all won't be around by the time it really hits the fire. But anyway, that's my report.
Ken, Ward 1.
July the 8th, I met with some chamber members at Camp Canonia. We were given a tour of the Christian camp. It's such an amazing camp for kids and seniors as well. After the tour, we were invited to have lunch with everyone. It was great. July the 15th, I had a meeting with Tom over concern I have with a constituent. I just want to thank Tom. July the 16th, I attended the Recreation Culture meeting. And I have to say, I think we're finally close to being done talks on the passport. Also on July 17th, I met with Dominique and met a few residents about the Ball Diamond on Horseshoe Lake Road. It's a well-used area, so we're trying to come up with some ideas how to utilize this little park. Later that evening, I attended the West Prairie Sound Museum meeting. July 19th, I attended the Rankin Lake Property Owners Association General Meeting. Well attended, great meeting. July 20th, I attended the Horseshoe Lake Annual General Meeting. Another great meeting and well attended. A couple of issues came out of the AGM meetings, but I'm looking into the issues. Thank you.
Thank you. If you can get the Rankin and Horseshoe Lake executive names into info@seguin.ca, make sure they're up to date. That would be a good step. Great. Thank you. So on July 9th, I had a Northern Ontario Women's Association meeting, and we will be delegating at AMO on Bill 5 and how it may affect women in the mining communities that are affected by it. That same day, I had West Prairie Sound Recreation, and Tamarack North Center meeting. July 10th, I was one of the people that attended the website planning workshop that was organized by Valerie and Mad Hatter, the agency that's working with us. And I was really there on behalf of the business committee, and Andrew Ryland is also sitting on that committee. So it was an interesting kind of, it was almost a workshop, but it was very interesting how they handled it online. July 11th, I attended the WAVE fashion show and the WOW challenge. WOW stands for WAVE Ontario Wardrobe Challenge, whereby she has challenged people from all over Ontario to present wardrobe items. Some of them are dresses, some of them are pants, some of them are things like purses and belts. They must be made from natural materials from Ontario. And she provides significant funding for this, and the prizes are upwards of $500 each. So it was quite interesting. And I have to point out that she herself, from Wave Fiber Mill in Seguin, was asked to present a full slate of fashions at Runway Toronto, which is a cross-Canada fashion show. As a follow-up to that, she was invited to the New York Times Square runway show, but she's turned them down because she just said, I don't have enough inventory to sell into the US yet. But I think it's pretty impressive that this is coming out of Seguin. Some of you may know I have a coat, and one of the things I said that she had to do on the coat I bought was put the label on the outside because it says Seguin, Ontario, and she is now doing that on all of her garments. So the label has become part of her design, and it's kind of neat. And everything's natural. She uses pebbles from Lake Superior for buttons. Some of it's wooden buttons. There's no plastic, and she won't even use polyester thread in her materials. It has to be 100% cotton or wool. So it's quite something to see how far she's come. July 12th, I attended the Gravenhurst Antique Boat Show, and they had a mayor's symposium that involved several mayors from throughout the district of Muskoka, and I was honored to be there as well. Also that afternoon was the Rosso Hall fundraiser in cooperation with Lake Rosso North. And other than the temperature, which was very warm, it was a great event. July 16th was the tariff roundtable with the Chambers of Commerce of Muskoka and Parry Sound, and the business committee was well represented there. Then on July 17th, last Thursday, was the Muskoka Lakes Association annual general meeting, and it was held in the Canadian Raceboat Hall of Fame on Highway 118. And again, at the Muskoka Lakes meetings, all the mayors are invited to speak a little bit and participate in what the Muskoka Lakes Association does. And you may have read in the media that the Muskoka Lakes Association and the Friends of Muskoka have now merged into one organization. So they represent well over 20,000 lakefront owners. So when they speak in Queen's Park, it's significant. And then on Saturday, Ted and I were at the Sugar Lake AGM, and it's the first time I've gone to an AGM and walked away with gift. We got well gifted with butter tarts and homemade bread. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they were great. 3 dates I want to tell people. On Wednesday of this week at 11 o'clock, we will have the official ceremony of blessing and noting the Standing People's Road, which you might recall the name came from Lila, who's an elder from Wasauksing. So she will be there. I don't know whether Ryan Tobogganong is going to be there. Tom's organizing it with Phil. If you want to be there, it's at the intersection of Standing People's Road and the little tiny road that goes off to nowhere. What's it called? Amick Road. That's where we're meeting at 11 o'clock. If you want to be there, Ryan is going to smudge and do a couple other things. Then Friday, this Wednesday, day after tomorrow, this Friday at 11 is exactly the 25th anniversary of the Rosso Market. And our members of parliament, Scott Aitchison, Graydon Smith, and I will be there. There are bagpipers coming and cake and stuff. So if you can find a place to park, I ensure come. But it is quite a celebration to think where this market started 25 years ago in the Ball Diamond and what it is now to the economy of Seguin. It's pretty spectacular. And then on Saturday, you might recall that we gave some money to the East Georgian Bay Art Tour. That is happening this Saturday. So you drive around to the various, I guess, sometimes it's their homes, sometimes it's where they gallery. If you look up East Georgian Bay Art Tour, there's a map of where you go, and our Seguin Senior of the Year, Mary Jane, is part of it with her stained glass workshop. So, and I did check. She's 95 years old and still making stained glass windows. And it was kind of neat when we gave her the award at Canada Day that her whole family was there from the States. Yeah, it worked out well. Over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple quick updates. Our official plan process continues to advance. So if you were unable to attend the recent open house events, the presentation from MHBC and the draft official plan document are available for review at letsconnectseguin.ca. The Rosso Memorial Hall restoration project is underway, as outlined in the master plan shared with the community and council in 2024. ERA Architects are hosting an open house on August 8th from 1 to 3 p.m. to inform next steps for restoring the building. Refreshments will be provided and all are welcome. Also, Public Works is hosting an information session at the Humphrey Community Center from 4:30 to 6 o'clock p.m. on Thursday, August 14th to discuss solutions to improve service and standards at Seguin's transfer stations. The data shared will be based in part on findings from the Township survey launched earlier this year. The presentation and interactive component will be available online for those unable to attend in person. Details will be available on our website and social media channels. News from the Seguin Public Libraries is that they're accepting donations for their annual book, bake, and yard sale, which will be held on Saturday, August the 9th from 8 a.m. until noon at the Humphrey Branch. All items should be clean and in good condition, and donations are accepted only during Humphrey Branch hours. Please don't just leave things outside the door. Seguin Public Libraries is also hosting a free event with Wild Ontario at Rossall Memorial Hall this Saturday at 11 a.m. And participants will get a chance to see birds of prey and learn about many of the incredible wild animals that live in our region. And on a final note, July 20th to July 27th is Drowning Prevention Week. We remind visitors and residents of Seguin to never boat alone, always wear a life jacket when on a boat, watch for swimmers, and always stay within an arm's length of children in the water. Feel free to visit the Life Saving Society website and social media for more tips. That's it for us, Your Worship.
Thank you. Sorry. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the correspondence as presented on the agenda for July 21st, 2025 meeting of council. I need a mover. Ken. All in favor? And I have a motion that bylaw number 2025-057, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of meetings of council, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Gail and Ted. All in favor? And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn this meeting of council at 3:35 p.m. to meet again on Tuesday, August 5th, 2025, or at the call of the mayor. Terry and Gail? All in favor? Thank you, everybody, and have a good civic holiday weekend.
This one here.